Well, I am excited about the opportunity to be here today. And like I always say when I start these, I lead an organization focused on engaging people in the world of philanthropy. This idea of giving time and talent and treasure, testimony and ties to making your community a better place to live in and work in and contribute to. And as a result of this work, I get the opportunity to work with some amazing people. And they decided not to show up today. So I'm left with my good friend Kyle McCree and the mayor of the city of Flint, Mr. Sheldon Neeley. No, honestly, this project that we're going to be describing or talking about today is very dear, not only dear to my heart as a person who was born and raised in this community and really cares about the narrative in some cases that we've missed and in some cases that we've done a good job of elevating. But I care about this community, and this project is an amazing project. We have a person who cared enough about the project to lift it up, bring it to us, and allow us to kind of run with it. And then we have a person who really has some deep knowledge of the family because they are a member of the family, and can tell us and give us some context to the family and the family's perspective on this project. And so I'm going to throw very quickly to my good friend and colleague, Ken Vaughn, to kind of facilitate the conversation between our mayor, who instigated activity around this project, really pushed on the community foundation to step up and not only give, but raise some dollars to support it. And then he's going to actually have some conversation with our good friend Kyle McCree, who is the grandson of Mr. or Mayor Floyd J. McCree. And so, Ken, you have the floor. I will jump back in here later as we get to Q&A, but I am very, very, very thankful to both Sheldon, our Mayor Neeley, and Mr. McCree for joining us today. Ken, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you. As Isaiah said, my name is Ken Vaughn, Development Officer for Community Foundation of Greater Flint. And this is definitely a project that is near and dear to my heart as well, being from Flint, Michigan. But also, this is my first project working here. And I'm blessed and thankful that I had the opportunity to be a part of this project and work with folks like Kyle McCree. Kyle is the Director of State Governmental Affairs and founder of this Floyd McCree Legacy project. He works at Consumers Energy. And then we have our mayor, Sheldon Neeley, who I've known since I was a young kid. But he commissioned this opportunity, and together it has been amazing. So wanted to introduce those two, but also to let you guys know that this is a webinar format. We encourage questions in the chat and understand that we are going to take some time at the end, the last 10 minutes or so, for Q&A as well. So this is going to be a great opportunity, a good time to learn and get an education on supporting the city, supporting initiatives, and at the same time, learning about pioneers who did amazing things in our city. I'm going to start by just kind of giving you a little overview. This fund was brought on by Kyle McCree and our mayor. And this fund is going to support the creation and placement of a statue of Floyd J. McCree, along with back-end support that's going to support future maintenance, education, and programmatic support. I remember being at an event at Michigan State a few years after I graduated, and I saw a good friend of mine, Pero Dagbovie, who was a professor there. And he came to me, he knew I graduated from college, and he said, what are you studying? And I said, well, I'm not studying anything. I graduated a long time ago. And he said, because you graduated means that you have to stop learning. And so that had me to understand that there are things going on in our city that we don't know about, and we can always learn about them. And so we have the unique and amazing opportunity to talk to a few folks here who can talk to you a little bit more about Floyd McCree, his legacy, what he has done in our city, and what that means for us today. And so I'm going to start by asking a question to Kyle just to kind of get us started here, because you do have that raw connection. But I'm just wondering if you can kind of share a little story with us about your grandfather, whether it's something that you witnessed personally or something that your father has told you, but something that stuck with you about Floyd McCree.
Wow. Well, Ken, that's a tough question. And thank you and Isaiah for your leadership, and certainly thank Mayor Neeley for his leadership in making this project come this far and the work that will happen along the way. there's a mutual friend of Isaiah and I's who used to serve in city government, and I was talking with them, and I said, I'm not the next Floyd McCree. I said, there's a lot of other people in our community who are the next Floyd McCree. He was a young man who, like a lot of people in Flint's history, was born in the South, in Webster Grove, Missouri, served his country in World War II, and then found his way to Flint in the auto industry. And his service, I think, really was a life mission, whether it was in the military, whether it was working in the foundry of Buick City, which was the hardest job. They said that everyone who came in the Buick City foundry looked differently, but when they left, they all looked the same because they had that soot and that, whether if you weren't black coming in, you were black coming out. It was that type of a job. But really, the service led to them working first for civil rights within the plant, but then it went outside of the plant. And I think that's the lesson of Grandpa and the story of his life, and so many others like him in this community and really around the country, was that spirit of lifetime service. My father, a story that didn't always extend to the family. He didn't see his purpose of being in politics to help his family. It was to help the community. My dad worked at a suit store in downtown Flint. It was as like a 17-year-old. It was kind of a prestigious job for a 17-year-old selling suits, right? It was a job that you could raise a family on. And when my dad told Grandpa that he got the job selling suits, he said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "I told him you said hire me." And my grandpa was furious because he would never have done that. But my dad said that anyone else in the community, he would have helped them get a job. But his son, he didn't think that, he said, you're on your own, you can make your own way. But, Grandpa really was about serving the community and, people in big ways, but a lot of times in those small ways. And while the mayor today has more um, legal authority than Grandpa had as the mayor back then because of how the city charter is different. But he was an example, and the mayor certainly has done this, Mayor Neeley has as well, of using what they call soft power, right? Using that influence, using the bully pulpit, even if you don't maybe have the votes, using other ways to influence people to do the right thing, and building those coalitions that stretch across racial boundaries, stretch across economic boundaries, across political boundaries. There's a photo which I love during the open housing struggle here in Flint of a rally with the governor at the time and Grandpa and many other city leaders advocating for open housing. And I love it because you couldn't have two more different people than then Governor George Romney and Grandpa, right? You have one black, one white, one Baptist, one Mormon, one factory worker, one auto executive, right? One Democrat, one Republican. But they were crossing all those lines to work together for the right thing. And that's really what Grandpa's legacy is all about. And so I hope fits that kind of story, and maybe one of Dad's early jobs as well, mentioning it in there. But Grandpa really was about service to this community.
Awesome. Yes, that, being called the people's mayor, you can definitely understand that. Well, for you, Mayor Neeley, understanding that you are, I won't say walking in the shoes, but you are definitely in this legacy of Floyd McCree. What does that mean to you, being a current black mayor of Flint? Understanding that there have been other mayors before you, but what does that mean for you being in his legacy?
Well, with this project, God has touched us all with another glorious opportunity to be able to reflect really what Floyd J. McCree really stood for, in his day-to-day walk. On this podcast, I'm a senior member. I'm older than you, Mr. Vaughn, and I'm older than Kyle just by a little bit. So I'm going to take the privileges of being the older senior person here to talk about legacy. Legacy is not always what you leave around people, it's what you leave in people. And Floyd J. McCree left a lot of his legacy inside of us all as African-American men. And so, you cannot become what you cannot see. And that's what really sparked the interest in me in going forth to try to become a person of change. And I use the element of politics to try to change our community and move it forward, especially for African-American purposes. And so, this project, when we look at the city of Flint and how it was founded and the chronology of how we grew, Floyd J. McCree was definitely in the fiber of how we've grown in our community. And so commemorating him with a statue so others can see and witness the marvelous strides that we have made as a community and as a people is a wonderful thing. And I think Kyle, really, put the human side of his grandfather to this, and you, Mr. Vaughn, your father was a role model and mentor as well to many young people. And Isaiah, as he leads a great foundation in our community, we all are trailblazers, but we have the obligation and the opportunity now to strike forward to make sure that we can never forget in which the legacy that was built for us to stand on, so in the future others can recognize that and benefit from it as well.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, most definitely. I think being a Flint native and having the opportunity to go out and explore, whether that was my time in school or my professional careers, one of the things that I've learned the most is that like I said, we can never stop learning. Education is going to be truly key when it comes to learning about our history and understanding where we came from. And I think that, I have an idea, but, Kyle, if you can let me know, what sparked this project? What sparked you to start this? And why is it important not only to you, but to the city of Flint to have this project?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. I have to admit that it wasn't my original idea. There were a few community leaders, certainly the mayors among them, our congressman, Norm Bryant, who's a longtime community official and leader who had the idea. And this goes back almost 10 years. And when I first raised it to my dad, he said, the people of that generation, they didn't want a statue. It wasn't about the recognition. It was about the work, which is true, very much true. But then as time went on, we realized, people may know a name, but then as the folks who knew Grandpa or who were even little kids when maybe he was in office in the county, as those people have left the community or even left this world, people know a name, but they don't realize that it's a person. I had this happen to me. I was checking in at an event in town, and on my name tag, my last name was misspelled. They forgot one of the C's. And so I went back to, get a new name tag, and the person at the front checking in the name tag said, "Oh, your last name, it's like the theater, the new McCree Theater." And I said, "Well, yes, but it's the person the theater is named in honor of." And they didn't know that was a person. I think, I've brought friends here to Flint, and when they see the statues of our auto pioneers downtown, everyone knows the name Buick and Chevrolet, but they don't realize that Louis Chevrolet was a French entrepreneur who lived in Flint, and they don't know that David Buick, built his company here in Flint and worked in Flint, right? They know the name, but they don't realize that it's a person. And I think for everyone in Flint, but as the mayor was saying, particularly for young people in Flint, to know that there were people here who led national movements right from Flint, Michigan, right? That there were people who were just like them, from working class backgrounds, who got together with a few of their other friends and literally were able to change their community. And that's really what this is all about. It is certainly about recognizing a legacy, and Grandpa is just one of many, many key figures in our community's history. But really, it's about inspiring the next generation to say, hey, you know what, if Floyd McCree and some of his friends from work, which is really what this was, him and some guys from Buick and some folks in Metropolitan Baptist Tabernacle, their church and their workplace coming together saying, hey, we don't like the way things are and we're going to change them and we can do it. Then they can do that today in 2022, or frankly, with the statue fund, they can be inspired in 2052 or in 2082, because we're raising money not only to erect the statue, but to maintain it as well, so it can be there long after the three of us are no longer on this side of glory.
Absolutely, and that I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of folks aren't aware of how that works, and the fact that we are creating and establishing an endowment that will not only support future maintenance, but like I said, education and programmatic support. This is something that's going to continue, like you said, well after we are gone. And that's why it's important for us to have these types of opportunities like an endowment to create this long lasting opportunity for things to be carried on long after we are gone. And so, this is something that, when we create scholarships, programmatic support, all of those things, when we have a vision and we think that this is something that's going to continue for a very long time, we create things like an endowment so that our mission and our vision will be carried on for years to come after generations. You know, I'm hoping to leave something for my children to hold on to and understand. And that's why, you know, my wife and I thought it was very important for us to support this project personally, because we understand the importance, but understand that there are folks like my father who's no longer here today, who would have jumped at the first chance to support something like this. So, you know, Mayor, what, I guess we can kind of come back a little bit to your position being the mayor. What sparked you to become the mayor of Flint? And if so, were there folks like a Floyd McCree that kind of gave you that push, or seeing someone like a Floyd McCree say, hey, I can do it as well?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that, you know, I came from a blue collar family. I'm still consider myself a blue collar type of mindset. I'm more of a social minded mayor. You know, like Floyd McCree, you know, I patterned some of the things in the studies that I've done of him, some of his public works that he's done. He had one quote. He said, I would not live an equal opportunity lie. And it's very important for us to be able to not, you know, live an equal opportunity lie. It has to be real, and it has to be a reality of equality. You know, much like our Pledge of Allegiance, you know, it says, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Floyd J. McCree really represented that in the walk every day that he represented us as a community. And his work, you know, open housing, you know, inside the city of Flint, one of the first major metropolitan communities in the world, especially in this country, saying that you can live and have opportunity to live wherever your pocketbook took you to. When we talk about, you know, industrial north, you know, manufacturing, Buick City, you know, my uncle worked there as a UAW representative. And so, you know, working in that foundry, like Kyle said, you know, when they went in there, you know, you hear stories about they went in different color, but they all came out one shade of the work that they've done through that course of that day. And so, yes, he played a tremendous role, and I was so thankful to my father and my extended family unit that was able to share the stories about the work that Floyd J. McCree did. And we have a duty and responsibility to pass on that same level of honor to our young people, because he stood strong in some very difficult times. When Governor Romney came to the city of Flint, or when they had a sleep in on City Hall's lawn, to be able to talk about equality, and then to have an ordinance, you know, making the local government push forward to be able to say that we're going to make it a letter of the law about a level of equality here in the city of Flint. And so it needs to be recognized. And so it's time to bring his legacy that he's done, and then place it right front and center, right there in the building in which he served, right there in City Hall's lawn. And we have some work to do, and then we're going to pass it on to you guys. You know, you're the younger generation. As I talked about me being a senior person here, only about a half a century I am, but you guys are going to be doing some fantastic work, and so we're going to continue to push forward.
Yeah. And understanding when I just said the people's mayor, what does that mean to you? Like, how does a moniker like that influence your approach to the work? Like, what does the people's mayor mean to you?
Right. Well, you know, people's mayor, you know, they care more about the next generation than they do the next election. And that's what it was about. You know, they care more about the next generation than the next election. Sometimes, you know, the political chicanery goes on back and forth. The political football is pushed back and forth. The racial football is pushed back and forth. But what really matters is the residential, recreation, economics, education, and safety are the key components when you talk about really increasing the quality of life. And during the period of time when Floyd J. McCree was really moving forward, he really pushed the social agenda for Black and brown people in the community, and also in a society where the dominant tendencies were saying that they didn't really care that much about the Black and browns, when the level of segregation was going on. You know, when we talk about the migration from people coming from the South, coming to get the good jobs in the North, he really talked about the level of quality of life. Living in the residential areas where, you know, you have the level of being surrounded by good educational opportunities, recreational opportunities. Those are make you the people's person. And so he represented that, and I just I cannot speak enough about the lessons that I've learned going back and doing the research that I've done over the course of years. And I encourage people to go to the Sloan Museum, which has some exhibits for Floyd J. McCree, and also some videos when he talked about some of these things and how to be able to champion the people's rights, especially inside the city of Flint.
Awesome.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
I would add to that, U of M Flint, their archives actually have the papers of Edgar Holt, who was a good friend and ally of Grandpa's, and there actually are the original copy of the equal opportunity speech. My dad and I had an opportunity to go visit and view that, and just seeing the actual paper, Mr. Holt having a copy of that famous speech. So we are blessed to have those archives available here to us in the city to still learn from and celebrate.
Yes, thank you, Kyle, for that, because a lot of folks aren't aware of where things like that live. Like if I wanted to learn anything about Floyd McCree surface level, I wouldn't know to check out archives like that. But definitely Sloan Museum, as the mayor said, is going to be some good resources there as well. Kyle, you hinted at this in your earlier comments, but how might this directly contribute to the idea of changing the narrative in Flint?
Yeah, I think it changes the story that we tell about ourselves, right? If you visit the airport, you visit downtown Flint, you see some statues that help to change your narrative, to see that there were great entrepreneurs and civic leaders who lived in the community. But you can also look at them, and all those statues are of people who don't look like the three of us. And I think having a statue of Floyd McCree at City Hall will show that, yes, we've had people of all races and backgrounds in Flint lead change and lead to great things, right? Not to denigrate any of those leaders who currently have a statue. They all did wonderful things for our community. But to show the picture that there's people of a variety of backgrounds, because then I think that also tells a story that people of all backgrounds can still succeed in the city of Flint, that can still be raised in the city as we all were, and I think be able to go out and do good things in your own way to your own ability. So I think it really helps tell the story that all people in Flint and from Flint can do great things.
Yeah, awesome. It definitely does. Since I've been working on this project, I've talked to a lot of mid-career individuals, folks that have graduated with me, on down, and I can't count how many people I've mentioned, Floyd McCree's name, and they either just knew the name, like you said earlier, just knew the name and not that it was an actual person, or just in general don't know anything about him at all. Can you talk a little bit about his education first and foremost, but also how he was put in this position? Because it's a lot different than how we do things now. Could you touch on that just for knowledge base?
Yeah. He used the GI Bill after World War II to get his education in Missouri, and then came here and worked in the factory. But he also, through marriage, so my grandmother, Liberta Townsend, her uncle was Roger B. Townsend, who at the time was a state representative here from Flint. And so, I wouldn't say that he was exactly riding solo from his own bootstraps. Certainly, the mayor, if you started your political career when you were running for city council, and if Cynthia's uncle was the current state rep, that might have helped your political career get a little bit, you raise money a little bit faster, probably, right? And so he did have that advantage of his wife. My grandmother was not born in Flint, but she was raised in Flint. So he married into a family that already had someone in the political business, but also went to Metropolitan Baptist Tabernacle here in Flint, which was a church that was right near Buick City, and had a lot of its members who were engaged in civil rights and in advocacy around Flint. So yeah, that's a little bit on his background, and then how he became mayor certainly was a different process. I mentioned that the mayor has more authority today than Grandpa did back then. It was a different charter system. If you are familiar with some communities that may have a mayor who's really a member of city council, who then gets voted in as the mayor, That's how it went back then. So amongst the members of city council, they themselves voted for one of the members to be the mayor for 2 years. I think my dad's told me they got like an extra $20 a meeting or something for being mayor. So it was not in it for the for the money certainly, but it was a different process to do that. The story is that, of course, this is before I think Open Meetings Act when they were deciding who they were going to vote for. He didn't have the votes, and they took some cabs from the Durant Hotel that was open as a hotel and probably at the restaurant having dinner. And on the cab ride down, he got the votes to become mayor. So I've always said I want to know what deal he cut in the cab ride on the way down to swing the votes his way.
Thank you. Yes, because I mean, like I said, as I continue to do the research, I'm learning a little bit more each time, and I'm trying my best to kind of put myself in a position when I first started this to remember things of the unknown that I didn't know, that some of these viewers who are watching today could possibly benefit from. I have another question for the mayor. Your legacy is being written today, right, Mr. Mayor? This will certainly be a part of it. How important is it that we memorialize the diversity of perspectives that have shaped our community over time and document the contributions of past giants?
Well, absolutely. That's a great question because right now in America we've seen some different things go out through our country right now. We're in an uncharted place in America. Some of the dominant tendencies of American society has resurrected itself in the last few years, where we're seeing people being more bold about the being implicitly biased or explicitly biased. And so now it's time to reach back and grab the great anchors of change through the 50s and the 60s. And Floyd J. McCree really spoke to that. Flint was a leader in the world that talked about levels of diversity and equality. How we showed that how we can make money and dollars through the manufacturing, have $1 billion corporation in our midst. And so we talk about the level of equality and the lighthouses of hope to be able to start to right size America again, to really speak to these things of coming together, around those religious or race or economic status. This is the time that we have to right the ship again. Getting away from what I call the new negative normal, because it's a negative norm out there now that has divided us all. And even in the Black community, we have our own self-inflicted wounds in our community, but we have to really figure out ways to be able to come in and heal ourselves as a community. And we got to look backwards to move forward. And I think, when we look at great heroes, we don't have to look outside the borders of our community for those great heroes. We have great heroes. Martin Luther King, we're approaching the holiday and giving tributes to great Dr. Martin Luther King and the work that he's done nationally and worldwide, but also reflect on within our own borders, Floyd J. McCree and others, and our future. We have great leaders amongst us. We talk about the Community Foundation under the leadership of Isaiah Oliver. We talk about you, Mr. Vaughn, coming in, and I've known you since you've been maybe 5 years of age, and I know Kyle McCree, I'm still working on his golf game, but we're going to probably try to get that, the next, before he becomes, 100 years old, he may be able to hit a golf ball straight. But we have to be able to embrace each other and using the coagulants of the past to bring us back to a place that we really can be proud of, and then we move with a positive norm of really what we need to establish. Because Kyle talked about his grandmother, his grandfather, his father, his mother, and you talked about your father, your mother, and we talk about the structures that builds families and builds great communities, and it's a structure of family coming together and working together. And so I've learned a lot from the past, and I've learned how to move forward with a positive mindset as it relates to all these things, and it's going to take that. And I hope I answered that question somewhere around the fringes of it, but definitely I've learned a lot in my growth to be able to make sure that we have to push forward and leave this place better than we actually found it.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, Kyle, we appreciate you and your family allowing us to do this project. your family has such a rich legacy here in Flint. You and your dad didn't follow in the path of your grandfather. How important is this initiative for your family? And was it difficult to step into the spotlight here?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. My dad got married pretty young, and so was devoted to his to my brother and I, and his brother was in politics, my uncle, for most of his adult life, and so he was behind the scenes helping his brother. Ironically, it was one of Grandpa's campaigns that brought my parents together. My dad was a campaign manager on one of Grandpa's later campaigns for office, and my mother came back recently, moved back to Flint from the East Coast, and she was a volunteer, and that's how my parents met. And so and Grandpa lost that race, but the joke was that he gained a daughter-in-law, even though he lost the election. So politics brought them together. Was able to work in politics a little bit, and even now I work certainly around politics in Lansing. But my uncle really said to me as a young person, and I appreciate this. He didn't push me to go into politics. He said our family's served, our family's done a lot, and we can let others lead. And that's why I appreciate the mayor and the folks who have come before him and those who will come down the road following him, continue to lead our community. It's not, up to one family to do things. All of us have the ability to do that. And so, yeah, it was, it's a great project. It's great for my dad. When I talk to him, if he's not asking me about the Lions, it's about the statue project, right? That's one of the key things he's focused on, and he'll ask me for updates. And my wife and I, we were pleased to work with yourself and with Karima and Isaiah at the Community Foundation to get this ball rolling with the fund. For us, it's personally satisfying, I think, for our philanthropy to not just recognize a member of the family, certainly, but to really do something for our community that will last beyond our lifetimes.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, Mayor, thank you so much for this opportunity to just kind of talk about, like we said, narrative change, talk about the legacy of Floyd McCree and what this means to the city of Flint. I am going to open this up to a little Q&A, just, some question and answering towards the end for those who may have them. But again, like I said, I want to truly just thank you so much for this opportunity, having a chance to pick your brain, Kyle, and hearing from you, Mayor Neeley, as the current mayor. We really appreciate this. So thank you so much. Isaiah, do you have any questions, follow up?
Well, one, I just wanted to thank both of them. Kyle, just thank you for not only allowing us to be on this journey with you, but for taking some time today to lift up the legacy of your grandfather and the legacy of your family. Like, we really appreciate, the intimacy of the conversation. You talked about him as grandpa. It made him a real person for us. Many of us see him as this statue or as this political figure. But when you say grandpa, it makes it real, because we all have that person that we hold dear in our life, the matriarch or patriarch of our family. So just thank you for allowing us in. And then thank you, Mr. Mayor, because if not for you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You introduced the idea, and I always say instigated a little bit of activity here, and we just lost the mayor while I'm telling him thank you. But thank you, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this conversation about memorializing and supporting and displaying the talent that has existed in our community over time. Because I think we have to find out how we tell a full story. What's the full narrative of our community and how it came together and how we overcame so many very tough things in our history. And so this is part of it. I don't have any questions, but when I introduced myself earlier, I said I lead an organization focused on engaging people and giving time, talent, and treasure. So I'd be remiss if I did not get on here and say that there is still an opportunity for the folks that are listening and the folks that get this later to contribute. Not only to contribute to this project, but to contribute to how we maintain this project in perpetuity. And so what we don't want this to become is a burden on the city. So 50 years, 75 years from now, when we've got an amazing statue in front of City Hall, and our mayor, Sheldon Neeley, is maybe we're working on a statue for him at that point, we don't want the city to say, man, the Community Foundation did this project and they left us with this bill. And so part of this project is not only celebrating and acknowledging the history of this work, having this placed on City Hall, but is maintaining this beautiful piece that's being put together. And I tell you, I've been able to see pictures of it as it's developing. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of work. So you all have an opportunity to not only be a part of this, but to be recognized, because we are going to have a plaque that's going to acknowledge the names of those who have contributed. And so if you'd like to contribute, please, by all means, reach out to my good friend and colleague, Ken Vaughn. You can reach him at kvaughn, KVAUGHN at cfgf.org, or you can give him a call at 810-767-8270. I sound like a commercial right now, but that's my job. We really want to make sure that you all are getting connected to the person that can help you to advance your philanthropy. And if this is your first kind of time jumping into philanthropy, doing something charitable, this is a charitable activity. So we're starting off the year right. Start getting your charitable activity in January. Don't do it in December. And so jump in and tap in with Ken and start jumpstarting your philanthropy or giving time, talent, and ultimately right now we're talking about treasure to support a worthy cause. And so again, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you are traveling. And thank you again, Ken. I'm going to jump right back out of y'all space, but thank you again. You all have been amazing.
Thank you so much. And I do want to thank all of our donors who have supported thus far. We probably could have reached out to one or two people and got this thing fully funded, but it was a lot of our idea to figure out. To put this in the hands of our community and give them the opportunity to be a part of this as well. I've been working in major gift philanthropy for a while now, almost 10 years. Wow. And I've never known an opportunity for you to be a part of history like this for $1,000 or more, And so, like Isaiah said, you do have the opportunity to support at a level of $1,000 or more to this statue, and your name will be placed on a plaque attached to the base of the statue. And so, like I said, I want to thank all of those who have supported thus far. We are getting some amazing folks just calling and connecting and asking about, how they can support. And so please take a chance to go on our website, Community Foundation of Greater Flint. There's a nice big blue button on the side. That's probably the only time as a Spartan you'll hear me say nice big blue. But give today sign over in the corner. So click on that and you can type in McCree and you'll see the Legacy Project there and you can go ahead and support. Again, we are, like I said, creating an opportunity to build this statue, but also for this to go in perpetuity and support some future maintenance, programmatic and educational support. So that's all I have. Kyle, Mayor, I don't know if you have any last words that you may want to say, anything that you want people to know, or anything that you just kind of want to throw out there towards the end. Please have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to really thank you two and also the Community Foundation under the leadership of Isaiah Oliver, for taking this project to the next level and to seeing it to completion. This is a major task. When we talk about fundraising, we talk about coming together to memorialize, this great individual and the work that he's done. And it really brings home, right? This really brings it home for me. I'm a product of Flint. You're a product of Flint, Vaughn. Kyle, you're a product of Flint. And Isaiah Oliver is a product of Flint, right? The thing that we have in common is not just that we're a product of Flint, but we're also African-American men coming together from our respective roles in life, from our professional family roles, to be able to see this to completion. That really speaks volumes about the community in which raised us. We always say it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to save a village. And right now we're asking members of our village to help support this project, the first of many that we can put together. But it's a community effort. We're community members. And I'm telling you, this is a God move, where we came together to be able to make this happen for the empowerment and the improvement and moving our community forward. So I just wanted to tell everyone, thank you, and God bless all of you that could contribute, and thank you that wanted to contribute, that put forth prayers and well wishes on this. And to the McCree family, you guys have been fabulous through the course of this as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly echo those comments and thank yourself. And I know also members of your team and city staff who have been helpful thus far. And when we get time to install the statue, we'll certainly be called upon to be helpful as well. And thank you to the Community Foundation of Greater Flint One question I think I saw in the chat, Ken, that maybe you can answer. I attempted to guesstimate, but I don't want to do it exactly. But someone said, how close are we to the goal? And I think that there certainly is room for those to get in, but we've done a good chunk of that with community support, as the mayor mentioned. Also want to just give a shout out to Joe Rundell, who's the sculptor, who's another Flint product, whose artistic gifts we see already in downtown and at the airport with the statues, and who's doing a great job with this statue as well. So thank Mr. Rundell for his gifts to the city and contribution to this project as well. Thank you all, and I look forward to this. The mayor is a go, go, go kind of person. I think he wanted this up before the end of the year, and we didn't get there, but we will get there this year, and look forward to that installation on the lawn of City Hall, where frankly Grandpa's legacy was cemented with the sleep in and the protests for open housing. And I can't think of a better place for his legacy to be memorialized than right there on the lawn of Flint City Hall.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Kyle. Yes, thank you for mentioning Joe, because Joe is definitely the sculptor who's done an amazing job with this. He's probably one of the most interesting men I've met, based off of the things that he has done in his past and what he's doing currently at the young age of 80. There are some. I want to thank the folks for their comments in the chat, as well as there is a Give Now link posted in the chat as well. We're a little over halfway there. We still have some more room for support. So please get those gifts in. It's roughly around 60,000 for the statue itself. And like I said, we're a little over, we're almost to 30,000 right now. So we've had some amazing contributors, amazing support. And like I said, this is something that we want the community to get involved in. So don't think just because you don't have $1,000 to get your name on there that a $50 gift or $100 gift wouldn't help. Because like I said, this is going to go over time. I'm probably going to give to this for a very long time, just because I understand that more funds that come into this endowment, the more we'd be able to spin off each year for things like education and maintenance and programmatic support. So thank you so much, Kyle, Sheldon, Isaiah. Thank you for just being here today. Thank you for answering our questions and putting this out there, because this was truly an educational opportunity for not only myself, but our community as a whole. And we are looking forward to that statue being put up and for us to have some sort of dedication and welcome everyone from the city of Flint and those around the country who have heard of Floyd McCree to be a part of this. So thanks a lot, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.